Look what you made. Look what you made. Look what you made. Look what you made me do.
Make no mistake about it, battles are rarely over quickly. Battles rarely happen without casualties. Battles are never easy. What I think happens in the Christian life is that no one ever told us we would have the skirmish. And suddenly there's a problem. We're waving the white flag thinking, well, if there's a problem, I guess Christianity isn't true. Wave the white flag. You're like, whoa, hold on a second. Whoever told you that that's the way the Christian life worked? Of course you're going to have doubts. Of course you're going to have problems. Of course you're going to have worries. Of course you're going to have things you can't answer. But as I always tell my students, just because you don't have an answer doesn't mean there's not an answer. Don't confuse you not having an answer with there not being an answer. Stay in the fight.
What's good people? Thought-provoking podcast, man. Hope y'all good out there. Hey, my conversations with God. And man, hope you guys are having a good week. You know, hope your day is going good. Hope you guys have a great weekend. Hope your month or your year, you know what I'm saying. You already know how I do. Hey man, before I get started, man, I'd like you guys to click that like, share, and subscribe. HBO special, you know what that is? Help a brother out. Hey man, my conversations with God. Yes, I do believe in God. I've said that before. I say it again. You know, it's my relationship, not other people's relationship. But I like to talk about that for a minute. You know, just to. And I don't know. I don't know if I can say it's to vent a little bit, or you know, this might help a lot of people out in their frustrations. You know, I never ever doubt God's power or existence. You know, it's kind of like bringing things out with Job's story, what he's been through, what he's done, you know, and how he came out in the end. You know, in the face of immense suffering, Job expressed his frustration and doubt about God's fairness, but he ultimately did not curse God or turn away from his faith. Job never turned away from his faith. Even though some of the things that he questioned, he just asked questions. You know, I had a bench I used to go to in Chicago. This is, you know, that I started to realize a relationship that was building up with me and God. You know, I went to this bench, I'm gonna say for 7 years, during me figuring it out, or me fighting. Now, let me say that, me fighting to get to the military due to my condition. You know, I had a bench that I went to. Every time I had a problem, or if I didn't have a problem, I still go to this bench and I'll talk to God about the direction or where he wanted me to be. Because, you know, I had a lot of frustrations. I won't really call it a doubt. A lot of frustrations. I was seemingly doing the right thing, always being in the right place. After a certain age, I don't know, you know, if I've been paying for past mistakes of my life at that time, or even at this very moment, paying for past mistakes. You know, karma kind of having a way to kind of touch me and reach back around and repay his favor. I'm not the best person in the world. I'm a good guy. I can say that. I'm not a nice guy, but I'm a pretty good guy, pretty fair with things. But Job expressed significant loss and pain, leading him to question God's actions, and even accused God of being unjust. He questioned why righteous people suffered while the wicked, you know, they win. They prospered. I used to think that way. But bad things happen to all people. I did used to wonder, you know, back in the day. Not now. It's a lot of stuff that I do deal with as far as being frustrated about asking for certain things and certain things continuing to happen and it not coming out the way that I want it to come out. But I don't question God's timing. I don't. And I don't question that. But I do become a little frustrated about asking for things. I don't need the scholars getting on here. Well, you just got to go with the. It's just a lot of people out there that sit back and try to come back at me at what they're saying. But this is my frustrations. A lot of people out there will not say out front to an individual about what I'm saying. I believe in God. I have faith. I pray about the things that's needed. I fight for the things that's needed. And a lot of times I pray for things that's wanted. To be perfectly honest with you, am I above saying that? But through years of going through what I went through, and still going through some of the things that I go through now, this here very moment, I do have a lot of frustrations. Doubt, I know things come within His time, not mine. His time, but not mine. But if you hear a pastor sit back and say in the pulpit, you need to pray for that thing right now. But if you hear me say that very same thing, how would that come across? Me personally, I kind of see it in the stance that people put the title in front of an individual that doesn't have that title and say you're wrong for saying that. A lot of people will say the pastor is wrong for saying that as well. But I've heard plenty of pastors sit back and say you have to demand the things that you want from God. My frustration is, why do I have to wait so long for the things that I want or need? That's my whole frustrations. I never look at an individual as competition. People do that. What's for me is for me. What's for them is for them. I was never a jealous individual to see, righteous people get pooped on and bad people always get. But at the end of the day, even though people that are unjust get the things that they get, there's always a day of reckoning. And I think that's what a lot of people really don't understand when they go, in a sense, it's jealousy. This person gets to do this and I do this. That's how I pretty much see that, when people think of things like, hey, it's kind of unfair for this person to get this and I pray for this, and soon when they pray for it, they get what they want. First of all, let's sit back and say this. You never know what an individual is going through in their life. You don't know what a person had to go through to get what they have. So what's for you, pray for that thing that's for you. It's for you. Let's not look at somebody else's window and sit back and say, I should have. You don't know what they're going through. There's other areas in their life that, regardless on what you're praying for or what you want, what's your relationship like with God? Recognition of God's power. Despite his doubt, Job never denied God's powers, existence of power, or he acknowledged God's ability to do all things and the vastness of God's wisdom. That's one thing I've always had. It's things that happened to me in my life that God always let me know he was there. He was listening. Always. Through anything that I go through, God's never let me touch the ground. I'm telling you. I go broke right now. I'm still eating. I'm telling you the truth. He never let my head touch that ground. I always had a roof over my head. I always had food in my mouth. I'm pretty much, in the essence of things, I'm always safe. Being in the areas in which I come from, being from city or being deployed, being those things that happen, always came out of those things okay, mentally and physically. And being hurt, even right now, dealing with cancer scares or this thing in my back. And I really don't know what it is, but at the end of the day, I got faith. It doesn't scare me, but it might scare people around me. I just sit back, hey, I believe. What's going to happen is supposed to happen. I believe. I got faith that everything's going to be all right. But God be the glory. It's not cancer, but it's something that's growing. So, they have to figure out what that is and monitor it. But I have faith. But I have to recognize within self that I have to be conscious enough to sit back and say, I have to respect how somebody else feels about my situation, because how they feel is not how I feel. My personality is different. God had to get me to recognize that I can't expect the individual to feel how I feel about God or a situation. I can't. You can't push or force feed your thoughts onto a person. That's manipulation. Let me sit back and say that. Now, if you like to tell them your viewpoints, how you see things, and just leave it at that. I can't push you to take my understanding or either my relationship with God or how I'm conveying my message. This is just a spur of the moment type thing. And I just think I just needed to get out here and talk about God for like my conversations with God. Repentance and submission. After God's powerful response, Job humbled himself and repented, acknowledging his lack of understanding and God's sovereignty. He ultimately submitted to God's will. I don't like to sit back and say I repent every time I pray. I'm going to say at least probably once or twice a week. I'm not going to sit back and lie to you. I pray every day, though. I'm going to say that. I pray every day. Sometimes I am a little bit selfish with my prayer because I have to be like that to get some of my understanding. You have to be a little selfish with your prayer so he can hear yours first. Individuals can say what they want. I understand. Please believe me before somebody get in here typing, but this is my conversations with God. I repent for the things that I've done, things that I've said, or things that I am unknowingly going to say. I'm a human being. Does it make it right for me to have done the things that I've done, said the things that I've said, or going to say or do the things that I'm going to do or say? It doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it right at all. Unconsciously not constantly not knowing or sitting back and just not really catching my thoughts or my behavior within being in my feelings, because you can be a little irrational at times. You can't fault anybody for the things that they do, but you can. You hold them accountable, but you have to come from a place of understanding. Hey, that wasn't right, but I forgive you. I forgive you. That wasn't right. We can move past this. And I think, in a lot of, I know I'm kind of going off a little bit, but a lot of people in society deal with unforgiveness. Oh, you did this. One thing we don't do is look in the mirror at ourselves, at what we did and what we do, how we move and how we maneuver, especially if you have a family. Things that you do don't just affect you, it affects everybody. As a child, you can look at it like that. Things that you do as a teenager don't just affect you, it affects your parents. You represent them at the end of the day, and your parents represent God. It starts at the top first, God, the couple, then the children. You don't put your children in front of God or in front of your spouse. Those kids grow up to leave. I think in a sense, you got to kind of catch it where it is and put things in a certain place. But you go to God for the answer. Seek He. But a lot of times we don't have an understanding as opposed to what goes on with us, what's supposed to happen with us. Just be truthful with that. There's a little frustration in your prayers or you're asking the question why, or even being frustrated with the part of, hey, God, I don't hear your voice. I don't hear you talking to me. I need to hear you say something because I'm telling you my conversations with God. I'm reaching out. I'm knocking. I'm seeking. I looked all over. couldn't find nobody. You know what I mean? That you know the song? Don't play with me. Come on, man. I know you hear me. I know you hear me. Hey man, if you made it this far, thank you. Thank you. This message will reach somebody. If it's just the one, it doesn't matter. I do this at the end of the day for me. I do it for my son because this is something that he's going to listen to, will not pass on, and hopefully his grandchildren. Hey, you want to talk to your granddaddy? Well, my son needs an answer for something because he's 10. I'm mid 40. You know, hopefully I can see him in his 30s, but I can't control that. I do my part with this vessel, but at the end of the day, you don't know the day or the time. But all I can say is, hey man, if he ever wants to have a conversation with me, he can just jump on the internet and check me out. It's my conversation, man. Importance of faith and trust. Job's story underscores the importance of maintaining faith and trust in God, even during times of immense suffering. I think, I've been putting out there lately, maintain a particular type of character. You have to maintain a particular type of smile, even though within frustrations. How do you do that? It takes time to build that within self. I think it's hard. Don't get it twisted. Don't get it twisted or misunderstood or misconstrued. Let me break it down. But don't get it misunderstood. That is not easy to not be frustrated or stressed or maintain a particular type of smile when very stressful situations are going on. Everybody's rock bottom is not the same. It looks different for everybody. But I promise you, if you have faith and you trust, you become an unshakable being, every situation that you go through, it's going to make you stronger. It's going to calcify things within your faith. You be that pillar, that rock, that boulder that needs to just, hey, I ain't shaken by that. At times, if it's people or places that kind of rattle your cage, a lot of times you might just have to separate yourself from those things that cause you harm. Can I say that? Can we both say that? I know I do at times. I can't say I'm right or wrong for it, but I have a huge thing with just taking myself away from an equation when I think people don't view me in a particular light, how I view myself. If somebody says that I'm a loser, I will immediately, that means you don't have my best interest at heart. And I remove myself. If I think, it's not to say back and say that I don't have love for that person or people that think or view me other than how it's above just that. It's those negative words or the thoughts that people put out, the conversations that people have that that they have. I still love people the same, but I have the tendency to just separate myself if I feel negative energy. Let me say that, negative energy, regardless on how it feels. But if it's that energy that's more than once, hey man, what's going on? It's a problem? And they'll say, and a lot of times they say nothing. We're okay, we're good. I've never really had an attitude with another male. I've never had an attitude. I've had one fight with my friends physically, and we're still best friends to this day. It's like actually my family member. I've been knowing this guy since, I want to say 6 or 7. Dwayne White was the only friend that I've ever actually had a physical fight with. But we're still friends. We fought. No, but we were older than that. We're about I want to say 12 or 13, 11, 12 or 13, one of them, my memory. But I do remember the fight. An hour later, we was back playing basketball. It was, hey man, we had a disagreement. We didn't, we didn't see things on the same line, and we continued being friends. But are a lot of relationships like that these days? Nah, you usually got to go seek some type of counseling. The older you get, the more traumatized an individual is by what somebody does to them. If that person is a solid individual in your life, if you have a fight, an argument, or a disagreement, you have to come to terms that you're going to disagree to disagree. Just leave it at that. You're still paying. This is mine. Or if y'all not seeing things on eye to eye on a situation, you have to come to yourself and sit back and say, why does that person think or believe the way that they believe? Or why doesn't this person see that they're hurting me? You always have to look at their childhood, why they think the way that they think, their environment in which they grew up in. Who they hung around, what they watch, what they read, the things that they say when situations happen. That'll let you know. You really can't hold them against them. You can hold it against their past. But at the end of the day, you just say what you have to say and you leave it alone. Say what you have to say. I'm going way off, man. I'm going way off. See, I get to having these conversations with this here on internet, and I just go off the handle. My conversations with God, man. Listen, at the end of the day, have faith and trust. You have to have faith and trust. You may be frustrated in the mix. Your boat may be a little bit shaky, but don't shake with it. You gonna feel it. You gonna feel the rumbling, but you gonna get a little wet in this boat. It's gonna be splashing all over you, but just know you will dry off. I have a saying that I always say, and you heard it before. Every fall comes with a stand. Trust me. Every fall comes with a stand. I had to, throughout my whole life, I've known. Every time I fell, I stood stronger. And every time the wind hit me, it was a lot of resistance when I was standing. And it couldn't knock me down until there was a harder situation that I've never encountered. Then I encountered that situation, and I stand stronger. Every fall comes with a stand. Just keep standing. Build that resistance against things.